everybody. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the show where myself, Dan Selke of winnerscoming.net, and you, Cheryl Wassenaar of cultures.com, talk about all things Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, and genre fiction in general. Cheryl, how are you doing this afternoon?
I mean, I'm great. We just came off a very interesting episode of Wick Club.
We did. It was all about incest.
Yep.
And if you belong to the Wick Club, you can see it. Otherwise,
we
you
went
can check
there.
it out. But it was odd. Anyway, hello, Julie, Kim, Ashley, Dan. Good to see everybody. Let's get into it, Cheryl. Game of Thrones news. Ser Pounce is dead.
Rip. Fill me in here, Dan.
Okay, so Game of Thrones Season 8 is coming. I guess they're needing to fill, this Entertainment Weekly has been on like an article tear, all
Pretty
kinds
much.
of stuff. And they talked David Benioff, a showrunner, and he just told us not only that Ser Pounce, King Tommen's beloved cat, is dead, but how it happened. Cersei hated the name Ser Pounce so much she could not allow him to survive. She came up with her most diabolical execution. Ser Pounce's death was so horrible, we couldn't even put it on air. I think this is just fun. Like, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because, A, Ser Pounce, R.I.P. You know, we all loved you.
Pour one out for our kitty homie.
Yes, pour some milk out for our kitty homie. It's been fun, the reactions, because some were like, how could you? This is terrible. And so people are like, do we need to know that? My answer is like, no, but it's pretty funny.
Animal death is not fun.
Fictional animal death.
Still not funny, Dan.
Oh, I think it's kind of cute. We have to see it.
Have you ever heard of that, that site, like, Does the Dog Die? Where it's just
No.
like people actually want to know, like, if a dog or an animal dies in movies, just because it can be kind of stressful.
And keep in mind, we're not going to see it.
Right.
This is just them talking. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of like a parody of J.K. Rowling like adding on to her mythos outside of the text. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I will say Ser Pounce for the win then, I guess.
It's like a fun little twist on that.
Yeah. Ser
That's
Pounce for
about
the
it.
win.
How do you guys feel about Ser Pounce? You going to mourn? Or you can join our candlelight vigil over this weekend.
I mean, I'm still sad that they edited it out. Didn't Tommen have like 3 cats in the books?
Yeah, he had more cats. He was a cat guy.
I know. And they just were like, no, Tommen may only have 1 cat.
So apparently cats are really hard to work with. Like, you know,
That's
true.
true.
They're not like dogs who can like
Be
tell them
trained
to go
do
and
things, yeah.
Yeah, like you can action, and you hope the cat pounces on the bed. You don't know though.
Cat's gonna do what the cat wants, man.
So yeah, that one scene was more than enough.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. In some actual news,
What do you mean? Ser Pounce is totally news.
He is. Again, R.I.P. Rip. R.I.P. The Television Critics Association press tour went on over this past long weekend. And Casey Bloys, HBO programming president, is out there speaking about the Game of Thrones prequel and a couple other things. But he basically revealed it's going to start filming in early summer, like June-ish, I don't know, which is good. Mm-hmm. Doesn't know when it's going to air. And he also had something interesting to say I thought we could talk about kind of where he sees the Game of Thrones prequel fitting into the HBO lineup going forward.
Okay.
I don't want to build a programming lineup that is dependent on the next Game of Thrones franchise coming. That said, it's an incredibly rich world that George R. R. Martin has created, so I think we'd be crazy not to take a shot, but it's not going to be the sole focus of our programming efforts. We're going to continue that franchise only if it's good. Okay, Cheryl, my question for you is that's a fairly conservative approach for a show that's successful, especially when you put it up against things like, I don't know, Disney making 30,000 Marvel movies and The Walking Dead having more seasons and more shows and spin-offs even as it loses viewers. Honestly, it's kind of bracing in its conservatism. He's only going to make one show. What's your opinion on that, Cheryl? Is this blasphemy in the age of the extended universe?
I don't think it's blasphemy specifically. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's necessarily as conservative of an approach as you are posing it to be, considering
I may have exaggerated a tad.
Yeah. I mean, how many prequels did they have in development?
They had 5 in development.
5.
But I mean, if you only make one.
Right. And I'm not saying that only making one is obviously the correct option or anything like that. I'm saying with something like this, I think HBO has kind of taken a look at what's happened with The Walking Dead and has said,
maybe.
we don't want to do that. because Walking Dead is kind of a case study.
They have like concurrent shows going, and you have now they're making movies and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, like for me, The Walking Dead is basically a case study in kind of how not to manage a franchise.
Ooh, I love it.
There's my hot take of the day, guys. And so I think HBO is responding to that more than HBO is responding to Disney constantly pumping out Marvel and Star Wars content. Because as much as Game of Thrones is kind of a movie on television, it's still not a movie. It has different priorities, and HBO has different priorities than a Disney would because of the fact that it is a television channel that exists to sell subscriptions to itself.
Yes.
And merchandise.
That's true.
But so
That's very true. That's very true.
I think HBO is neither as conservative as you are purporting it to be, nor is it as profligate, if you will, as The Walking Dead is with spending fans' goodwill. So,
Good words,
yes,
man.
I'm just throwing them out today.
Yeah, fair enough. You're right that because it depends on subscriptions. It's not like Disney where they depend on literally. Of course, they want more movies out there. That's how they make their money, and then the dolls, so they can afford to only have one Game of Thrones prequel.
Right.
If it was like a business driven by commercials, from like 80 years ago, 30 years ago, and that was still happening, maybe they would have 13 shows on concurrently. But you're right. Subscription model, they can afford to do this.
Yeah.
But they, it's nice because they have the luxury of having the luxury of we can look classy about it.
Yes.
Because under our little revenue structure. Okay, this is a fun new way to look at HBO. I thought they were classy. They can just afford to be classy. AMC can't afford to be classy. It has to go all out.
I mean, Breaking Bad's over, and so is Mad Men. What else we got? The Walking Dead. Go for it.
Better Call Saul.
Sure, that too.
Trucking along. I'm one of the 8 folk who watches it, and I'm very happy with it.
I'm so glad that you were living your best life there, Dan Selke.
Exactly.
I'm so proud of you. But yes, I think HBO can afford to look classy is kind of the conclusion that we are both coming to.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. How about the news that the Game of Thrones showrunners, because Game of Thrones coming to an end. There's a little debate in the comments about whether Walking Dead is bad or good, or they improved, they got worse.
It got worse.
Okay,
that's actually my opinion. I used to watch The Walking Dead, and then it got worse, and then I came back and watched the episode where Glenn dies with my mother, actually. Hi, Mom, if you're watching. And I was so grossed out by it. And again, I watch horror movies for fun. I was so grossed out by it that I have not watched an episode since.
Damn, that's intense. I just kind of fell off.
Yeah.
Anyway, Game of Thrones is ending.
Yes.
And, I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody does with their post-Game of Thrones careers. The Game of Thrones showrunners, David Benioff and Dan Weiss, they have some interesting stuff lined up. Also at the TCAs, Casey Bloys, HR President, talking about, what they're going to do. At one point, they had a show called Confederate in the making about. Let me just summarize. It was going to be about. This is going to be from the Game of Thrones producers, Benioff and Weiss, the creators of it, about an alternate reality where the Civil War was fought to a standstill and slavery still existed. Long story short, huge controversy. Haven't heard a word since. Casey Bloys basically said, well, it's just delayed. They'll come back. They're doing Star Wars now, which they are. Their next step is Benioff and Weiss, Game of Thrones creators, are going to make a Star Wars trilogy. Frankly, both of those options have their problems. I guess my question for you, Cheryl,
Yes,
are you interested in a trio of Star Wars movies from the gentleman who made Game of Thrones? Like, what could they bring to Star Wars that hasn't been brought?
I don't know. Like, more actual overt sexiness?
I guess the name. They could bring their name. Like,
Star Wars doesn't need that.
No, you're right, it doesn't.
Is the thing. Like, Star Wars doesn't need them. It's Star Wars. For those who are listening to our podcast, I've been making a series of faces as Dan has been reading this news that run the gamut from like rolling my eyes to just kind of leaning back and looking like I'm asking some higher power for patience, because I have a lot of objections to Benioff and Weiss getting a Star Wars trilogy.
Really? I mean, I will say
I
just
do.
one really quick, like in terms of the news, like
Yeah.
we knew they've been tapped to make Star Wars movies. We haven't really heard about it in a while.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sent Star Wars ahead of itself. This is like kind of before the whole Last Jedi fiasco and
Yeah.
then the Solo mini fiasco. So
Yeah.
part of me is wondering, like, maybe they're downsizing, but apparently not, according
No.
to Blois.
No. I mean,
Julie hates Star Wars.
I know. Hi, Julie. I know you hate Star Wars. I'm not wearing anything Star Wars today, just for you.
You wear a lot of
just for
black.
you. I do wear a lot of black, though. But yeah, my basic objection to Benioff and Weiss getting to make it is I don't think they can really bring anything new to Star Wars. They have created this big epic show based on a big epic piece of IP. They've now been handed the keys to another big epic piece of IP, so presumably they're just going to make something that is big and epic again.
I mean, that would be like if I'm like a Disney executive, that's like the lazy kind of thought process.
Yeah.
Like, well, they did that really well and beautifully. They'll do it again. But
Yeah.
in that case, they had, great source material.
Right, and I'm not saying that Star Wars doesn't have great source material, but it's just like,
Jesse Highsmith, really quick. The Walking Dead teat has been drained.
Yep.
Hard to follow a storyline when you don't care about the characters.
yep,
Good phraseology.
there's nothing left there. It's all dry. But yeah, I don't think Confederate is ever really going to get made at this point either. I think
I
it's
have a hard time believing it could.
I think
like
it's just-
Casey Blois is like, when they're done with that, they'll come back and we'll get it going. Like, really? I feel like you're blowing smoke.
buddy, I don't
Because after
think-
that
Yeah.
backlash, I can't imagine them touching it with an 8-foot pole.
I mean, they might be hoping that it just kind of quietly dies, but the fact that Casey Blois brought it up again, like even if it was in response to a question, is like, yeah, but now you're just reminding everybody why they hated this concept in the first place.
I mean,
So-
honest to God, I thought it sounded kind of neat. I would actually watch it. But that's one other discussion. By the way, PJ Anderson wants a GT prequel. I hope they run for a decade. Me too, as long as they're good. Okay, you know what? Let me say this here. I'll say that here, just really briefly.
Okay.
I heard the idea for Confederate. I did not hate it. I thought there was a big problem with the marketing, obviously, because it's like a show about slavery from the white guys who made Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like, that was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I don't object to the idea in itself. I mean, if you did it really, really well, you could explore a lot of issues. I don't see why not.
That's basic. I mean, there are more objections to Confederate that have been worded, particularly by Black people and people of color just in general, that I, as a white woman, cannot, repeat perfectly because I don't have the same I don't have that cultural history.
Nor I.
in
We do
that
not
same-
have access to some vocabulary here.
No. But I can, even as a white woman who has enjoyed some privileges, can look at the fact that this show was pitched and created by a couple of white guys and say, that sounds like it could get real problematic real fast.
The rollout was really bad.
Yeah.
I will say, this is an issue that I'm not sure if everybody brings up.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to know when it came in. They were making it with a husband-wife team, I think Malcolm and Nichelle Spellman, who were both African-American.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, although, again, it's hard to know if they were the ideas, and then after the backlash, they were like, oh, and here are our black friends. Or if they were there from the beginning, and, they should have been front and center.
Yeah.
But that's, relitigating the past. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
All I know is that the idea by itself, I think, could be an interesting, intriguing thing. I've seen other alternate history things.
Yeah.
But, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
No.
And yeah, they're definitely not the right frontman for it.
No.
And I would welcome all of your thoughts on that. I know it's a bit of a dicey subject.
We have opened the hot take machine.
Yes. There's so little runway for Confederate. You have to absolutely nail it, says Corey Thone.
Yeah.
I agree. There'd be no room for maneuvering. You're right.
No.
I think it could have been good, but it's not. Why even talk about it? It's never going to happen.
Pretty much.
And as for Star Wars, Benioff and Weiss have things that they do well. If they work with actors really, really well, I think that is a point in their favor.
Okay.
I guess it's hard to know what storytelling they would bring because, their storytelling has been, the one that they've been famous for is for something they adapted.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what Disney wants out of them. I mean, honest to God, I'm just kind of tired of Star Wars in general.
How could you say that to me? I mean, no, I completely understand. I'm tired of Star Wars's the choices that are being made about the future of Star Wars, if you will, except for the books. I'm super excited about all the books that are coming out this year. There are books. Yeah. But the kind of the front face of Star Wars has and always will be the movies, and the choices that are being made with the movies in a lot of terms concern me. So that's where I'm tired. I will read Star Wars books until the cows come home, or the space cows, as the case may be.
Okay, here we go. Oh God, I shouldn't read this, but I will just because I realize this is a touch up. But Julie says, as a non-American, I would like to see Confederate, but I understand why you guys are reluctant, which is pretty fair.
Yeah, it's a cultural subject.
Anyway, let's end on that super hot button, flaming hot note. Do you have any other thoughts on any of this, Cheryl, before we transition to Song That and Josh?
At least I'm excited to see episode 9 this year.
I am too. I mean, yeah. I'll see it.
And then we'll talk about it.
Then we'll probably talk about it.
All right.
Okay, Cheryl, thank you for coming.
Yep.
See you next week.
See you next week,
We're going to bring
people.
in Josh Hill for us here for another Song of That and Josh. Mm-hmm. But while we wait for him, why don't you enjoy a little informational video?
Oh, Ned Stark, will you ever learn? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I'm Dan Selke, the editor at winteriscoming.net, your one-stop shop for all things Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, and genre fiction in general. We here at Wick love bringing you news, reviews, and editorial content, and we're going to keep doing all that stuff. However, for the especially hardcore among you, we're going to start offering even more. Welcome to the Wick Club. The Wick Club is a Patreon-funded effort to provide fantasy and sci-fi fans with even more Wick content. You can join at several levels. For $1 a month, you can enter into monthly swag giveaways and get to read extra columns. At $4, you'll get to watch extra episodes of Take the Black Live, our weekly chat show, with topics chosen by you. Please be gentle. And at the Valyrian Steel level, that's $10 a month, you get Wick Club t-shirts and access to a new segment we're calling Drinking and Knowing Things, a monthly live stream where I drink wine and talk with all of you in a free-flowing conversation about Game of Thrones, fantasy, sci-fi, and whatever else comes up after I've had a few. Just to be clear, we're not going to stop doing anything on Wick we already do, and we're hoping to add more stuff anyway. The Wick Club is a way to produce even more content, and hopefully to get to know some of you better. You can find links to more information below. We hope to see you in the Wick Clubhouse. Valor Morgulis, bottoms up, and thanks for watching.
And welcome back. I'm here with Mr. Josh Hill of Fansweater.com. Josh Hill, how are you?
I'm good. Very excellent.
Good.
After that conversation you and Cheryl just had, it's only uphill from here.
Let's transition to Complete and Utter Fantasy. We are talking about A Clash of Kings, the second book in the Song of Ice and Fire saga. Yes. We read a chapter at a time. I've read the books multiple times. Josh, you've never read the books. You've seen the Game of Thrones television program on HBO.
I have.
But we're reading this through, chapter at a time, getting to know George R. R. Martin's work.
That's right.
And we just read Arya 2 from A Clash of Kings, the second Arya chapter. What are your first thoughts here?
Gendry is one of my thoughts.
First thoughts are Gendry.
And whatever the guy's name is. I never know.
Yoren. He's their leader.
Yeah.
And then Amory Lorch is the knight who comes to collect Gendry.
Yep. That's right. But Gendry was the big tatakeaway of this chapter.
All right, why?
For me.
What about Gendry?
I don't know. He's just like this. He's got this lore about him on the show. Like, I remember we were talking about it a season ago when we were trying to think what was going to happen on the show. And it's like, oh, Gendry's going to come back. We have to have Gendry come back. He hasn't been here for so long. And he's his bloodline has such a major role in, the fight for the throne. And Gendry seems to be like a fan favorite. Like,
he does.
I don't know why it is that it happens all over with different movies and books and TV shows, but a good character goes away. It doesn't even have to be that great. There's nothing too significant about Gendry. It's not like he had one big moment before, and you're like, oh, that was a Gendry moment. It's just like he's there, and now he's gone, and people are like, oh, where's Gendry?
2 points. First, Julie says hi.
Oh, hi, Julie.
And so in this chapter, basically what happens is Arya's on the road with her Night's Watch people. She's still posing as a boy, trying to get to the wall, and they're at an inn taking baths. Not Arya, because she can't, I suppose she's a girl.
She wants to keep it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was smart.
And, exactly. Although, really quick, I loved her line about the reason she didn't take a bath. Like, this almost came first. Some of the creatures living in her clothes had come all the way from Flea Bottom with her. It didn't seem right to drown them. I think it's adorable.
That's one way of putting it.
Like, she feels guilty about killing the ticks that are living on her that she got when she was homeless in King's Landing. And it's also like, and because you can't reveal you're a girl, right? Like,
Right.
that's like your
That's
second
the
reason?
Main reason to me. The not wanting to drown
Of course it is.
the not wanting to drown the ticks thing. That's like, that shows you where her head's at. That's what somebody who just watched their dad's head get cut off look. That's where
Right?
their head is at.
Or it's
They're like, I can't
it's
let
like a
go
very
of these
childish
ticks.
thing to say, which is so cute because we should remember that Arya is a kid here.
Lyme's disease is no joke, Dan.
It's not a joke, but it's
Not cute.
phrased a little. Her innocence is
Yeah.
cute.
No, it is.
She's still innocent in this
Yeah.
chapter.
She is.
In terms of like kind of tender mixing with harsh, I also liked the bit where, the chapter she's on the road. The chapter opens with her like looking at all the people she's passing
Yep.
on the road, old folks and little children, big men and small ones, barefoot girls and women with babies at their breasts. They're all riding for King's Landing.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they riding for King's Landing, Josh? All these stream of humanity going to the city.
I don't think that they're riding to King's Landing for a good reason. It's like there's nothing good in King's Landing.
But why are they going? They're all going.
They are.
Everyone's
all going.
going.
You tell me. Why are they going?
Okay. They're going because there's war. It's a war, man. The Lannisters are fighting the Riverlanders, the Tullys. The Starks are coming down. Peasants are running to get out of their villages and their towns to a city with walls because they're afraid.
And that's my problem with it. Like, I don't understand. Like, I understand that King's Landing is like this capital city or
It's a walled
something like
city.
that. It is a walled city. But this idea that anything good happens in King's Landing, from the very small details that we've had, or just the horrible people that are involved there. I don't know how information is spread around Westeros, but King's Landing is not the place that I would want to go if there's war, because to me, if there's war, people are coming for King's Landing. So why would I go to the place where everybody's probably going to go?
Well, eventually, but right now, there's fighting everywhere. Like, there's two battles. There's the Lannisters and there's the Tullys. They're kind of the two
Yeah.
combatants now in the Starks. They're not fighting in King's Landing. They're fighting all over the Riverlands. They're fighting, in the fields and on the beaches and whatever the rest of that quote is. And, Gregor Clan is burning villages down. They're burning enemy villages down.
Yeah.
The peasants are suffering. The choice is, if you have a family and you're
suppose,
I
yeah.
can stay in my hut and, risk literal raiders or brigands who
Yeah.
are just because there's war around, just feel free to, if there's time for looting, it's now. They're just going to go, we'll burn your village down. We'll kill you, maybe rape you, steal your stuff, whether that's an enemy army or them. You're like, okay, I need to go where there's law and order. And even though King's Landing is a cesspool, there's, the government's still intact. Even though it's being led by idiots named Cersei and Varys and Littlefinger.
It's just this mirage, this metaphor of being forced into something that you think is going to be better, and it's not going to be any better. They're being literally and
it's horrible there. Like,
yeah.
It's later in the book. It's a big riot in King's Landing. That's a lot of fun. I mean, it's not.
Well, on
it's
the
not
show,
ideal.
on the show, I mean, there's like levels of King's Landing where like they go down. If you get down
Yeah.
low enough to the, roll in the mud with the peasants, like it's like a metaphor. It's like the refugee metaphor. It's like,
But it's war refugees, and this happens. Like, this happens in all wars, medieval and current.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the reason they're all going. It's because there's war in the land, and they don't want to die, so they want to go where there's big walls and a standing military and a force that can repel people who they want to go where there's law and order, because there isn't any here, which is the theme of the chapter. In fact, later, when Arya and Gendry and Yoren and the Night's Watch crew are all at their inn, Amory Lorch, a knight sent by the Queen, comes up and asks, I'm here to find one of you. And Arya thinks it's her because she's, Ned Stark's daughter. And it ends up that it's not. They're actually looking for Gendry.
Yep.
Remember why?
well, it's because bloodline. They can't let him.
Yeah,
they
he's
can't let him.
Robert's bastard son.
Yeah, they can't have him running around. They can't have Rob's bastard son running around. With the formal, claim to the throne.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's why.
And that's why I disappeared on the show. But I think I don't know. But
He's just because he just kind of.
that's okay. No, that was the reason I wanted him to come back on the show.
Yeah,
he's got the rightful.
That's why people
Yeah.
are talking about Gendry,
Yeah.
because technically, on the show, he's the last living Baratheon. Stannis is gone, Renly's gone, Robert's gone, Stannis' family's gone, so he's like the last one. But yeah, that's why he's important, because Cersei wants him dead, because she wants all Robert's bastards dead. She doesn't want anybody fighting with Joffrey for the throne, even though it would be a great thing if they did.
Yep.
What's funny is that, like, nobody knows that. Like, Gendry doesn't know, Arya doesn't know, Yoren doesn't know.
It was
So
good
they're-
for the suspense of the chapter, though.
It really was.
Because I really did honestly think that they were looking for Arya. I was like,
of
I don't
course, why
remember this
wouldn't
from the
you?
show.
What's that?
I was like, I don't remember this from the show.
It happened in the show. It happened in the show.
No, but I remember like for them looking for Arya. That's why I was like, oh, they never took Arya. Like I don't remember this.
Yeah.
Like this is a major difference from the book to the show.
No,
and then the reveal
it's
of
the exact
Gendry,
thing,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, it's Gendry. It's like so.
Only, yeah, he has no idea why they're looking
There's a
for him.
lot
He's
going
on
on.
turn.
Yeah.
I also like the bit where Amory Lorch rides up and he has some knights with him, and he's like, hand over Gendry. And Yoren's like, no. And then all the Night's Watchmen, like, even though they're kind of idiot brigands who are being taken to the Night's Watch, they all do, like, form up and just instinctually, like, we're not going to let you take anybody. And there's one line, what was it? Dauber stepped naked out of the bathhouse with his clothes in a bundle, saw what was happening, and dropped everything but his dagger. So just everybody's just forming up.
Yep.
That was cute. Which is so kind of Arya's style. She wants to ride or die for something.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's into that. Any excuse to fight the Lannisters, she will take. So she too, she was like, you got to go through me. Like, has her little sword out. It was adorable. And then they leave because Yoren takes Amory Lorch's sword. But the point was, Yoren's under the impression that because they're in the Night's Watch, they'll be able to get through this kind of war-torn country without folk bothering them. He says, that's nothing to us. Tully or Lannister makes no matter. The Watch takes no part. Like, that's the law of the land.
Yep.
That's, if you're in the Night's Watch, no one messes with you.
Yeah.
Just because that's the tradition.
You've got one job. Everybody knows what it is.
And part of the thing here is that people are forgetting what that is. But Amory Lorch comes up anyway.
Yep.
And tries to threaten them to hand over Gendry. And Lauren's like, but it's the law. And then Amory Lorch, in a very Judge Dredd moment, goes, the law, here's your law, takes out a sword, and is like, yeah, I don't care about the prohibition. Hand the dude over or we will kill you. And I think that's very much a theme here. Lawlessness.
Yeah.
This is what war is doing to the countryside. People are running to King's Landing because it's chaos in the country now that people are fighting. They're even not respecting the Night's Watch neutrality.
Well, that was the thing too. Like everybody, that's why it's like I don't think it's a good reason. I mean, I understand why the refugees are fleeing to King's Landing. I get it, but I
I'm
don't.
not sure you do. I feel like I have to convince you.
You did have to convince me because I think it's a bad idea because that right there encompasses exactly why you don't want to go to King's Landing because you have these representatives from King's Landing being like, we are going to actively participate in the lawlessness to our own end, like for our own gain.
I mean, is that lawlessness if the Queen is telling you to do that?
It is because the Queen, who we've established will not respect the by-the-book method, is going outside of the rules. She's going outside of the law.
Well, I mean, according to the Queen, she wants to kill this bastard so law and order can be preserved because then her son will not have any rivals for the throne and he can rule over peacefully.
Yes, that is the...
War is what happens when there are two... We're in a war right now because Joffrey says he wants the throne, Renly wants the throne, Stannis wants the throne, Robb Stark is just angry that his dad is dead. I mean, this is a war of secession. The idea is you kill the other claimants, and there's only one king, then there's peace.
That's true. That is the blueprint to every successful democracy in the history of mankind.
Well,
just kill everybody else, and then we'll be able to do our one plan.
Well, that's the problem. This isn't democracy. This is not that this really matters, but this is why monarchy doesn't work, people.
It's true. This is not the first time you said that. We had to put that on a T-shirt. Sell that.
It's not like it's a giant revelation. I think we want to figure that out. Although, then again, I don't know, there are places in the world that still have them.
It's true.
And, not to get too political, but...
I love it when we get political.
You do. You just need to like that. I am definitely against autocracy of any kind. And you don't have to be a king to be an autocrat, as far as I'll say. But yeah, the system of government where there's only one person in charge, this kind of crap happens. And again, in history it has.
Yeah.
So what was my original point? The original point is King's Landing is still the safest place for them to go.
It is technically the safest place to go.
Okay.
But I can't be convinced any further than that.
Fair enough. I think that's all I need to be convinced of. And again, also, these are peasants. These aren't people who are, like, concerned about oh, I heard the queen's a not nice person.
No, and I mean, that's highlighted in the idea that they're all flocking to the same place for individual purposes. They're like, I will be safe, my family will be safe inside the walls of King Landing, without considering the fact that everybody else in the country, in the countryside or wherever, is doing the same exact thing, and it's, eventually we're going to run out of room. Like,
well, it's very true. And that does literally happen. Like there's from the show and in the books too, there's a big riot later in this book and later in this season of the show in King's Landing because it's a lot of people and not a lot of food and it's bad. But I mean, again, that happens in life, like in history. When there's a war in the countryside, you flee to where there are the big freaking walls. It just makes sense. Although then that causes its own problems. Or refugee crises today. I mean, that still happens when, oh God, I'm political again. If where you are is terrible and it sucks and your family has a horrible outlook, you try to go somewhere where it's less terrible.
Yeah.
And then that causes its own set of problems and then its own, stuff happens with immigration. So it's a very real, I think, realistic issue that we're seeing. And I feel attacked by your refusal to believe it.
It's good. That's why this is the best segment of the show, Dan.
Yeah, when I get all passionate about autocracy. Do you have any other thoughts on this chapter?
No, I don't.
I did philosophically.
I did like the Law and Order, the
happened.
theme. Like, not a lot happened, which is kind of the last couple of chapters. Not
It really
a lot
has.
happened, but
we're early in the book. It's setting things up.
well, like Bran, not a lot happened, but a
nothing
lot
happened
happened
there.
in terms of like getting inside of his mind.
Well,
where
in
he
this
was.
one, literally, like, Emery Large comes for Gendry. He says no. He rides off. He's going to come back.
Yeah.
So it sets that up.
But it's like that happened. Something big happened. A big reveal happened, and not a lot around it.
They want Gendry. Do we? Yeah, we know that Gendry at this point in the narrative is Robert Baratheon's son. Just he doesn't, because Ned figured it out in the first book. Okay.
He did.
I also, really quick, I just liked this bit. When they're going along, one of their own party dies, the Night's Watch party. Somebody dies. I don't remember his name. Just some rando. And all the Night's Watchmen, Arya's group, they strip him of his valuables. They take all his crap, his shoes, his clothes, his swords, and then toss a few acorns over his body so an oak might grow to mark his place. I liked the fact that it was very callous, because you're literally stealing a dead man's stuff.
Extremely callous, yeah.
But it's also kind of tender, because, they're planting a tree over
They
him.
planted a tree on top of him?
Yes.
How do you know that tree's going to grow?
They don't.
Exactly. That's not very
tough.
touching. That's like, maybe it'll grow, maybe it won't.
It is
Maybe he'll just be in an
absolutely
unmarked
touching.
grave forever.
It speaks to the severity of the situation. They have to keep going, because if they don't, Emery Lorch is going to come and kill them all. But they still do what little thing they can for
true.
this dead person. That's what
What a very bare minimum little thing that they can.
Good. What do you want of these people, Josh? It's a war zone.
I
they
want
have to keep
a
moving.
proper burial for your brother in arms.
Well, they don't have the time.
Well,
They probably put him in a hole. If
they had to. I hope they didn't just toss the acorn on top of him and hope that the tree was
hope
going to
that
grow.
works.
That's not how that works.
Yes, they buried him.
All right. Well, at least we have that.
Okay. You have anything else you want to say? I'm very passionate.
No, but
today.
it was a good chapter. For a chapter where not a lot happened, we got very fired up about it.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I'm
I
excited
mean-
for the next chapter.
I mean, that's the thing about Game of Thrones. Like, yes, not a lot literally happened in the plot, but as we saw, the ground is rich with thematic resonance.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty of themes to dig into here. Autocracy, war, survival,
Yeah, immigration.
childhood innocence, immigration. All these things are touched on because, like all
Proper
the great
hygiene.
stories, hygiene, ticks living on you, Lyme disease, and how it can be your friend. Okay, I think that's about going to do it for us.
I think so. What's the next chapter? What are we doing next week?
First John chapter.
So everybody's paying attention and reading along. I hope people are reading along. That'd be fun.
I hope so too. Yeah, if you guys are reading along, let us know. We are enjoying it, and we hope you are too. And we will see you next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time here on the Winners Coming Facebook page for more Game of Thrones news, more Long West and Fire discussion, more genre fiction, rumination, and more Song of Ben and Josh. Jon Snow won from Clash of Kings.
All right.
All right. Adios, everybody. Thanks for watching.